Hello and welcome back to the Mythic TCG YouTube channel. My name is Ren and I'm going to show you how to play Mythic. We're going to go over some card breakdowns and kind of show you a quick how to play and get you started on your Mythic journey. Now we are using Tabletop Simulator for this example. I do want to point out though that this playmat you see on here with all of the nice little deck slots and the grave, general slot, all this good stuff, you can actually pick up a real copy of this on the Mythic TCG website and go to the shop. We have playmats. You can pick them up. It's really helpful. First and foremost, let's go over the 5 card types. And as you can see, we got 5 different cards here. The first one we're going to go over is these right here. These are the champions. If you look at the card border, it's got the black and gray, like smoky border. That's one way how you can indicate it is a champion card. You can also look in the upper left-hand corner and you'll see a 4 level. That is another way to identify that it is a champion because they are spent with action points. But then also if you look at the yellow text box of the card, it says champion, SPQR, and fire. That's another way. So it tells you it's a champion, that's the card type. That's what kind of card it is. SPQR is their pantheon or their archetype. And then the fire is the actual card typing. You know, kind of similar to Pokemon has, fire Pokemon, water Pokemon. This is a fire type card. And it only comes into play in certain scenarios. It's not a huge, big thing, but it helps with certain mythics and certain combos you're trying to get off. You need certain card types. So that's how you look at that. Also looking at this, you can see that in the middle it says SPQR Legion. That is the name of the card. Just below that on the left-hand side, it has this nice little battle axe. And then 3000, that is the attack of the card. And if you go on the opposite side, you see that shield with the 6000, that is the defense of that card. And those numbers differ and matter depending on how you play the card. We'll go over that shortly. If you look in the middle, you'll see that one golden line, and I'll kind of point to it right here. You can see on like this Quetzalcoatl, it has the 2. I think all the rest of these are 2s. That is the rank. So your rank 1 is kind of like your common cards. Your rank 2 is your uncommon. Rank 3 would be more like rares. Rank 4 would be more like ultra rares, and then rank 5 would be basically secret rares because they are almost non-existent and very few people have ever seen them. They're very hard to pull. But going on to the card again, this is basic card layout for the champions. And of course, they all have their own little ability that's below the text for what they are. Moving on to the next card is the namesake of the game. These are the Mythics. Now the Mythics, you could tell because they have that nice deep red color on the border, and then in the upper left corner it has the star for the Mythics. Same kind of concept as the champion. They look very, very similar because they act in kind of a very similar way as champions, except for they all have certain very unique costs and how to play these cards. If you go back to the champions, the number in the upper left corner is how many action points it costs to play the champion, and we'll go into that a little bit deeper in a minute. But then on the Mythics here, you can see they don't have any kind of cost. That's because the card itself, each Mythic has its own unique summoning cost. This one, for example, if you read the card text, it says, this card can only be deployed by summoning of the divine. So you need a specific card called Summoning of the Divine to even get Quetzalcoatl out, which makes it rather difficult in a lot of situations to get the card out. So they're very unique, very powerful cards, but they have harder abilities and harder criteria, I should say, to meet in order to get them out. But then you can see this one has 10,000 attack and 10,000 defense. Plus it says it has the ability, this card cannot be eliminated on its owner's turn. When deployed, you can deploy any number of Aztec champions from your grave. Once per turn, you can sacrifice any number of champions from your field. So it has a really good ability with it as well. It makes it really interesting for the Aztec archetype. But that's Mythics. Each Mythic kind of has its own cost to get out. The third card type is the fortifiers. Now, these ones have the brown outer color you can see here. They also have that nice little rook castle symbol in the upper left. They can be either normal or enduring. Normal just basically means when you play this card and you do its ability, it goes to the discard pile once the ability is completed. Enduring means that it stays on the field and it continues to do the card ability until it is removed. So big difference there. But these are our fortifiers. These get played face down on your slot down here. And then, of course, your champions and mythics go up here. It just says champion slots, but your mythics are technically champions when they get deployed. The fourth card is the magic cards here. Very similar to fortifiers. They don't have a cost to get out there, and they can be normal or enduring. This one, for example, just normal. It says target one magic fortifier card and you eliminate it. Plain and simple. Then you discard the card when the ability is done. You can tell that this is a magic card because it's got that really nice teal color on the outside. And then in the upper left corner, it has that little swirl. That's how you indicate that it's a magic card. The final card type are generals. Definitely one of the better aspects of the game. Something that can really make or break any kind of combination or, deck work you're trying to do. It could really make or break your gameplay too, depending on how it happens for you and your opponent. But you can tell these apart because they have that deep purple color, and then it has those Roman wreath up in the top left corner. It also says general below the name, and then they have abilities. So basically the way it's played is your champions and your mythics get played up in the top slot up here. Your magic and your fortifiers get played down here. Of course, magic or fortifiers get played face down. And then generals have their own slot off to the left. You only have 6 slots for champions, only 6 slots for magic and fortifiers. But the good thing is once a normal type magic or fortifier gets played, it goes right to the grave, freeing up that slot. So you want to make sure you don't have too many enduring out here, because then you could really bottleneck yourself and maybe not even get to play any more magic fortifiers. But the way it works is you have your separate decks as well. You have a mythic deck here, which if we look through here, you can only have 2 copies of each card. So you see we've got 2 Quetzalcoatl's, we've got 2 the Turquoise Prince. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because that's a mouthful. We've got 2 Tengu, and then we've got a couple other ones here. But you can only have 2 of each mythic card in a mythic deck. You can only have a maximum of 10 mythic cards for your deck. So this one is maxed out, and I maxed out the cards I wanted to max out. Your deck here can be comprised between 50 cards at a minimum or 75 cards at a maximum. So the way the game is played is pretty simple. You start off with 25,000 heartbeats. That is your life total. Your opponent will start off with 25,000 as well. Your whole job in Mythic is to knock out your opponent's heartbeats to 0. Once you do that, you win. And the turns, it's pretty standard for a game. You roll a die to see who goes first. Say I get a 3, my opponent gets a 4. So let's say they want to go second. We are going to go first, because that's the way it works. On your first turn, you do not get to draw a card, and you do not get to attack. On any turn after the very first turn of the game, when you play a champion, you can attack right away, and you also get to draw. But the way an attack or a phase works is you have your draw step. So typically, if it's not your first turn, you would draw a card. In this case, we're going to draw 6 because that is the hand size. And then you're going to get 4 action points every turn. So that's what you use to spend on these cards. You can see like this Aztec Priest cost 5 to spend or to play. I only have 4, so I cannot play them. But I can play this Fairy Healer. I can also play these 2 cards if I wanted to, because they have no cost. So the way it works is you have your draw phase where you draw your card and you get your action points, and then you go to your action phase. So my action phase here is I'm going to play this fortifier face down in my fortifier slot. All I have to say is I'm going to play a fortifier, and then you put it down. Your opponent does not know what it is, only you get to know what it is. If I wanted to deploy a general, because this magic card right here says this card is always considered an SPQR card, add 1 SPQR general from your deck to your hand. I can play that. It doesn't cost anything at all because it's a magic card. It's also a normal magic card, which means as soon as I search my deck and get a general and add it to my hand, this card goes away. So if we want to do that real quick, let's see, I search. Let's get Agrippina. She's going to go into my hand. And there we go. I've completed the action, so this card goes to the grave. Now I can play a general, and you can only play 1 general once per turn. And generals typically don't leave the battlefield, or like you're not shuffling through a lot of generals because it can be rather hard to get generals in and out. Now, of course, if you have a separate general and you get it on my next turn, I can play a separate one, bump her out to the discard pile, and then play my other general. Or there's certain magic and fortifier cards you could get rid of, opponents' generals or your own. Now, this one says if you control an Olympian Mythic, play an additional turn. I don't have any Olympian Mythics out right now, so I can't play it. The only thing I have left to do is spend my action points on champions. The only one I can do is the Fairy Healer Sana. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 1 action point to play her. Now, her ability says if this card is flipped face up from face down position, gain 2,000 heartbeats. So the way Mythic works for the champions is you can play your champions face up like this. This would be considered attack stance because she's face up and vertical. Now, if I had played her this way, this would be considered defense stance. And it matters because the left side number with the battle axe where it says 1,000, that is her attack. On the right side, and where it says 1,000 with the shield, it has defense. Makes a difference for when you actually go into battle with somebody else. For the purpose of this, we're just going to leave her face up in an attack stance, and that would end our turn. I would then end my turn, and it would go to my opponent's turn, where they would do all they got to do and bounce it back to me. Now, on their turn, since they did not go first, they would still get to draw a card as well as go up to their 4 action points. But for the sake of the tutorial, we're going to say they ended their turn. It's now my turn. I'm going to draw 1 card, and I'm going to go up 4 more action points. So we're going to go up to 7. Now, let's say, for example, let's say my opponent has this Aztec Ahuitzol, the Heart Reaper. He's got 5,000 attack and 2,000 defense, but he's an attack stance. So that means we are going to be looking at the number on the left, the attack number, so 5,000. My Fairy Healer over here only has 1,000 attack. If I were to attack right now and try to take down the king over here, the Heart Reaper, I would lose because my 1,000 is not greater than his 5,000. Not only would I lose and my Fairy Healer would be sent to the discard pile, the grave, the difference in the attack numbers is 4,000. My 1,000 minus his 5,000 would mean 4,000. The residual damage would come back and actually hit me for 4,000 damage. So now I'm down to 21,000. Let's say, though, for example, he's got the Fairy Healer, and I've got the King Heart Reaper here. She is only in attack stance for 1,000, and then I have attack stance for 5,000, and I declare my attack. Not only am I then knocking out the Fairy Healer over here, but I'm doing 4,000 damage to my opponent over here as well. So then they would be at 21,000. That is the basic, very simple way how to play Mythic TCG. Let's draw a few more cards here. And you keep going back around. You do your draw phase, you gain your action points, you then play your cards, you set up your battlefield, then you go to battle and attack or defend yourself, however you got to do it. The name of the game, again, is to get your opponent's heartbeats down to 0. So you want to formulate strategy based on all of that. Let's say, okay, so this is a good one. Trebuchet says target one magic fortifier card and eliminate it. Let's say my opponent had a fortifier here, and let's just give them a champion, a defense stance. I don't know what that fortifier they have up there is, and I don't want to attack yet because I don't know what that fortifier is, so I have this. I'm going to play Trebuchet and target their fortifier card. It now gets sent to the discard pile, and now I know that they can't block me with anything. Now, however, I have to attack his Eagle Warrior. I don't have to attack, but I want to attack because I want to get rid of all of this. And let's say we're going to play... We have some insurance on our field now. I'm going to declare an attack stance on his champion in defense stance. Now I'm looking at my attack number because I'm in attack stance, so 5,000. But he's in defense stance, so we're looking at his defense number, 2,000. So my 5,000 is greater than his 2,000. I still knock out his champion. However, since his champion was in the defense stance, none of the residual damage would go through and hurt his heartbeats, my opponent's heartbeats. So there's two separate ways you have to look at this. You know, if you want to be ready to defend yourself or to attack. So for example, I put this Hypostastai of Macedon in defense stance because he's got a much larger defensive number. I can now defend a little bit easier with this and attack with King Huitzel. So you have to formulate a strategy that's going to really help you while also setting yourself up to defend yourself. That is the very basics of how to play Mythic TCG. Kind of give you a little bit of a deck breakdown on what to expect when it comes to building decks and Mythic decks. It's a very simple game, easy to learn to play, I should say, very hard to master. Certain strategies work well with others, some don't work at all. There's some archetypes that really put the hurt on other archetypes, and you can gain really good advantages or disadvantages quickly. And as I've stated before, 25,000 heartbeats seems like a lot. It can dwindle very, very quickly. You know, for example, if I knocked out that champion and I still had 2 more champions that I could attack with, that's 8,000 I'm attacking right there. If I attacked him, he'd be going down to, 13,000 heartbeats. And then in my next turn, if I played, let's say, Freyr, I'm pretty much coming up for game. So it doesn't take a lot to break down somebody's defense, but there's never a point where you are completely out of a game because there's some really good cards you could draw or some good mythics you could draw upon to then really put the hurt on your opponent. And of course, your generals really come in to help clean up. So, like this one says, once per turn, you can target and eliminate 1 card on your field, except this card, then eliminate the same type of card on an opponent's field. So, if they have a really, really good, let's say, for example, I don't want those. Let's say, for example, they have in attack stance, Helios, the Radiant Sun. Nothing I have on my field is going to destroy Helios, the Radiant Sun. And honestly, if he attacks pretty much anything, I'm going to lose no matter what. I might not lose heartbeats if I put them in defense stance, but he's got a clear advantage because he's got something super powerful to my mid-level powers. I could then say, I wanted to get rid of... I could then say, I'm going to get rid of my mythic card here to get rid of your mythic card. And boom, just like that, I've cleared the obstacle in front of me. Even though it cost me a little bit of something, I got something much better in return by taking out his mythic. And now I've got a clear line to attack straight away. So this game is very, very fun. It's very addicting, I should say, because each strategy varies greatly. And, this strategy might work well this game. I might not get these same cards next game, and I have to formulate a somewhat different strategy. And, it's just a super fun, super easy game to learn. Very hard to master, though. but it's a solid game overall. And as I said before, if you guys want to learn more, you can get this playmat, the physical playmat, on the Mythic TCG shop. But why don't you go ahead, join us over on Discord. We have a bunch of deck tech breakdowns. We've got people discussing archetypes and combos all the time. We've got tournaments going on. There's actually a tournament about to come up in January of 2025. So make sure you go join the Discord, join the community, get in with all of us. We're pretty friendly people and very eager to help and help teach people learn the game. So link will be down in the description for that. But that is all we have time for. If you have questions, comment them below. But again, the best way to really get answers is by joining the Discord. Make sure you do that and pick up yourself some boxes and decks on the Mythic TCG website and get into the best mythology-based trading card game out there. We'll see you guys in the next one.